Good morning everyone who has joined in from the United States of America, and good evening to people who have joined us from the rest of the world. My name is Pattabhiraman and I'll be your host for the session today. I would first thank you all for joining us. We have some very insightful and educative content in store for you today. Today's webinar is the third of the series titled Introduction to Informatica 9.x Architecture, brought to you by Informatica Global Customer Support. This will be a monthly initiative. I'm sure we have a lot of people who have joined us in our previous webinars as well. So this is an initiative from the Informatica support team where subject matter experts will be presenting on different topics and different products from a support perspective. So you can log into our support portal at mysupport.informatica.com or follow us on our Twitter handle, that's INFASupport, for more details on the topics lined up for the coming month. Our speaker for today is Laxminarasimhan Veeraraghavan. He is the Principal Support Engineer with Informatica Global Customer Support with over 3 years of experience in helping customers on data quality and PowerCenter. Prior to his support role, he has worked in the Informatica R&D department. So before we get started on our webinar, a couple of housekeeping tips that you can see on our screen today. Please put your phones on mute during the presentation. If there is too much of background noise, we'll put you on auto mute. However, if you want to unmute, you can always use #6. We will open up the table for discussion for Q&A at the end of the session. So we have time allotted for Q&A session. So please feel free to make a note of your questions and ask it at the end of the session. You can also send us your questions over the chat functionality that's available on WebEx. And for people who might have missed this, any of your team members who might have missed this webinar, this session will be recorded. An email will be sent to all the folks who have registered for this webinar after the session. You can also check our YouTube channel on youtube.com/user/INFASupport for the recording of the previous webinars as well. And we would, as always, appreciate your feedback. So a survey link will be included in the email. Please feel free to give in your rating about the webinar and also suggest the topics on the future webinars. Without further ado, I would like to welcome Lax to take over the presentation. Thank you, everyone, and I would request everyone to put your phones on mute again, please.
This is Lax here, and today this is what I'm going to do for the Informatica 9 architecture. What are the differences? Why came to Informatica. So this will be the PowerPoint presentation.
Hello.
One second.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, this is Rajendra Kotakota.
Hey, can you please put your phone on mute, please?
Sure.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hey, hi.
So, my name is Lax and I work with the Informatica Global Customer Support. We will go over the Informatica 9 architecture. This would be the agenda for today. Informatica 9 architecture, ISP and communication, other changes in 9.x, and operational, what are the processes and log files, how to look. Okay, and terminology wise, these are the terminologies which I will be using today. Would be the PCSF, which is the PowerCenter service framework. It is 8.x service framework, which is present in 8.x. Then the new service framework, which is the Informatica Services Platform starting 9.x. We have something called JSF, which will be the Java Services Framework for internal communication. Then we have a network protocol called BEEP, which is built over the JSF. Then the other terminologies, the service manager, node manager process, or node process, or ISP process. All these processes are related to the Tomcat Java process, which we start, right? So coming to the architecture itself, right? So why do we have this new architecture in starting 9.x, right? So the main point being, if you have the knowledge of old Informatica platform, meaning to say 8.x, we were so tightly integrated with the domain that any or any enhancement which has to be done used to be a very painful part of coding and extending the support, right? So starting 9.x, we had to re-architect the whole product to support an open architecture, wherein given any service, we should be able to plug and play. That was the fundamental driving for this new 9.x architecture. Again, as you know, over the years, Informatica has been expanding the product line. So we need to bring everything under single UI for customers. So there, all the services from a given single admin console or any front-end tool, right? Which was not present with 8.x. If you remember, PowerCenter was the only PowerCenter and reporting service were the only one which were available as part of the domain, and most of the other data quality or any other product where you for administration purpose had to be outside this one, basically having multiple tools to handle these product line. So 9.x, we said, okay, this is not the right approach. So we came up with the new architecture wherein all the products can be managed from a single point of contact, right? If you look at this screen, right, you have an admin console, and here I have depicted two product lines. One in the bottom, if you see the PowerCenter product line, where you have integration server, repository server, and service, which was the old 8.x out of the box available, which is in the blue color. And in the top, if you see, this is the new data quality or the data quality and data services architecture, meaning to say these are the services which are available out of the box for you to manage, right? So additionally, we do have Power Exchange Listener, SAP, which is available out of the box. Now, if you look at this architecture, we have brought in data quality and power under the same platform. Now, going forward, we will be using this platform for supporting any new services which is coming down the lane, right? So for that purpose, we had to create an open architecture, and the architecture should be reusable framework. In 8.x, if we wanted to add a new service, then we had to do a lot of coding and everything to support that service itself. So which is in new, you can just create one service, you should be able to plug it in and start using this one, right? So what it gives on the advantage side is it's a shorter development cycle for integrating the services or the product line to be delivered to the end user, and the existing architecture, which was an 8x, was a big bottleneck, right? So that is why we came up with this new open pluggable architecture. We can enhance our product and bring all the services and the product line as a part of a platform, so it can be exposed to the end user. So having said why, and let's go. What was the how did we achieve, and what was used underlying to achieve this one, right? If you look at this one, right, we used the completely new domain architecture itself to achieve this one, right? How it was achieved, internally we call this as ISP, which is called the Informatica Services Platform. Now, if you remember in 8.x, the ISP was PCSF, nothing but the domain itself. Now, within the domain, we were able to support only certain services. Now, ISP itself can support any new services if you want to make it and run. So, let's go how this was achieved and what it took for us to achieve this open architecture. So, coming to the Informatica Services Platform itself, right? So, if you look at platform services, what is the top level we provide you as part of Informatica Services Platform? For administration purpose, there is a framework, right? This administration framework will support you to monitor the service, start or stop or fail over the service. Now, coming to the ISP, how we have made it extendable for new service to add easily is, right, in 8.x, we used to have the Tomcat process or the initial PCSF process take care of all the services related work. Meaning to say, let's assume you are starting a PowerCenter repository service. In 8.x, if you start the PowerCenter repository service, the PCSF will make sure the service comes up. It will make sure the service is up and running. It will capture all the errors. It will do all the work needed for it to start. Then, yeah, we have started the service. As opposed in 9.x, which is a asynchronous call, all the Informatica Service Platform gives is you register yourself as a service and you have to implement 4 or 5 methods in that, and all the service will do from the admin console is a synchronized call. It will say, service, please start yourself. And the service has to handle all the required necessary troubleshooting or failover, whatever it is. It has to handle and come back and say to the ISP saying, I have started or I have stopped or I have failed for a particular reason. That's about it. So the whole weight of running the logic of starting and stopping is pushed down to the service. That's how we have made this platform extendable to any service. You can write your own private service and make it pluggable, right? So if you look at the second point, extendable via plugins for additional service, that's what it means, right? You can write additional plugins given on the framework. For example, the data integration service, right? Data integration service itself is a service, but it doesn't have a standalone operation for itself. It will have multiple plugins. If you look at inside that one, we have called a SQL service, profiling service, mapping service, workflow service. So all this becomes a plugin within the service framework itself. So that's how we are making it extendable within the service itself.
Folks on the WebEx, we have been getting some messages saying that not everyone is on mute and it's causing a lot of disturbance for the other attendees. I would again request, please put your phone on mute so that it does not disturb the other attendees. Thank you.
Thank you. So the second point here is support for single point of administration, right? So as I said, right, in 8.x, if you had 2 product lines like PowerCenter and data quality, and even within the PowerCenter, we had to do multiple levels of user or group role management. Meaning to say, first you have to assign your users in admin console for the service itself, but within the PowerCenter repository, you have to go again reassign from the repository manager for further further support of the groups and the role management. same thing with data quality. Since it was a standalone tool, you have to do 2 levels of support, meaning to say you have to copy this user from PowerCenter to the data quality world and make sure it is working as requested. So from starting this one, we are ISP itself will provide a single point of administration for user groups and role management, meaning to say you will be able to control all the permissions within the admin console instead of going over other different front end to handle this one, right? And again, since we say it's extendable architecture, you would be able to do a service configuration and monitoring of the service from the admin console as a single point of entry, right? Other framework supports are integrated with LDAP and Active Directory for implementation of Center of Excellence within the company. If you have a large LDAP or Active Directory if you are using, this will help you to go forward and integrate directly. So again, this is a platform offering, which meaning to say Informatica services platform. Any of the services would be able to take. Excuse me, can you please mute? Thank you. Yeah. So you will be able to take advantage of this one. Additional, the set of services which we provide as
To unmute your line, press *6 or #6.
Yeah, so we just muted everyone and we have. So again, further on the core services itself, we have something called the authentication service and naming service. All these are provided as part of the services platform. Okay. Now, what are the other changes from functionality from PCSF to ISP itself, right? If you look at starting 9.x, admin console is a standalone service. It itself becomes an application as such instead of being an integrated piece within the Tomcat. In 8.x, we did have a lot of issues. For example, if admin console did not come up, none of the services will come up, and it is kind of a stuck situation where you cannot even proceed and the whole system goes down. So we removed the dependency out of that. So we made admin console as a standalone service. So in 9.x, you would see a difference in your architecture wherein even if admin console does not come up, all other services will start up, and you won't have, basically you won't be able to access the admin console. But there are ways for us to bring up the admin console alone, but it doesn't stop anyone from proceeding further to work on the PowerCenter or data quality. So it becomes a standalone. As I said, since it is a asynchronized call, the Tomcat itself is not blocked by one service not starting up, which is departing from the 8.x. If some service for whatever reason gets stuck, then all other services will be hanging till this service is come up or comes back and says, I have an issue starting up the service. So till that time, it is a blocked service for the Tomcat itself, making sure this is coming up or not in 8.x. The second one is the pluggable service, right? So if you see the pluggable service, as I said, starting 9.x, when we say pluggable service, in 8.x, if you had to add a new service, then Informatica itself had to do a lot of development to support the service because of the architecture. It was so tightly and rigidly integrated with the service. Any changes had to be made, cannot be done on the fly, and we had to go to a development cycle wherein, let's assume you wanted to add a new service called model repository service in 8.x, then R&D has to invest time to add this service, make it recognizable, then go through all the testing cycle before it can be put into the product itself, right? Starting 9.x, it is a very open architecture. All it has to do is implement 4 or 5 methodologies, saying that, okay, I have a service, so-and-so service, let's assume INFAGCS, I have an INFAGCS service. I can go ahead and register directly inside the admin console as a service if I am able to implement standard procedures provided by the platform, like start, stop, how do I monitor you as a service, and how do I log the information. If we have all this provided information implemented within the service, we would be able to just plug it in and start expose this service as part of admin console. So that's where the difference is. It becomes a pluggable service for any type, thereby increasing the exposure of the product itself on the platform much faster, rather than waiting for a long time on the development cycle. Second, the other thing is the EDR, which is called the Enterprise Database Repository. Now, we are kind of moving towards wherein the connections itself becomes admin object rather than session object. In PowerCenter, if you remember, the connection itself will be in the workflow manager. It cannot be exposed to anyone, and you have to do the permissions on the connection object within the workflow manager, whether anyone is accessible or not, right? So what we are doing is we are extracting that one for the new products, data quality and other products. This becomes connection object becomes domain object itself, exposed in admin console, wherein you can test the connection, make sure it is available, give permissions to others, and how do you want to handle this connection object now. And this, once this object is in the domain, it becomes a global object, right? So you can give this global object, and this global object can be used across the product with the same definition instead of being copied across the repositories, right? So if you remember, if you have 2 repositories, you have to create 2 connections and it has to be maintained, but still it is not there in PowerCenter, but this is available as part of data quality world, wherein the connection object can be created in the domain, and it can be shared across multiple data quality services, the same connection object. Now, when we say the next one is standalone components. Now, all these components are becoming a standalone object, right? If you look at 8.x, we had a lot of dependency in the PowerCenter, because the PowerCenter was bread and butter of Informatica and still is. So we had a lot of tight integration with PowerCenter. So if there was any issue with the PCSF itself or the PowerCenter, then it kind of blocks us from doing any other stuff. So we kind of removed all this dependency from PowerCenter using the instead of using the PowerCenter framework, we came up with this new ISP framework. Further down, what are the technical changes from the PowerCenter, from the PCSF, right? So in the old PCSF, the domain repository itself was set of tables, and the way we stored the domain object was in the XML club format within the database, right? So which was issue when it came to when it came to your editing, or if it's a huge domain, if you have a lot of objects within the domain, this whole domain was stored as XML. So sometimes we had issue accessing this XML itself. It used to grow so big that it end up hanging, and we have to restart or find a way around for you guys to access the domain itself, right? So starting 9.x, this has become instance of a model repository service. MRS is model repository service. So it is a plain database tables with set of rows, right? So it is not a club anymore, and the metadata itself is completely stored in the form of flat tables. So if you go to the backend, you would see a lot of tables being created as part of the domain. So this one is a depart from old, wherein we were using the XML framework for us to determine what was happening in the domain itself. For any changes, we had to rewrite back as a XML format or the blob format. And so starting 9.x, it is a state table, so it doesn't add any overhead of maintaining the domain database itself. It is a straightforward table. We should be able to access it without any issue. Then, if you remember in 8.x, if a domain repository was exported, we used to export that as a XML format. And starting 9.x, you would see a binary format called mrep. So we take the whole table structure and the data with that. So you won't be able to edit or do anything with the domain repository. So again, this is the new architecture enhancement now. The other thing as part of the domain repository is, we starting 9.x, all the domain, whenever you connect to the domain, it is purely using a JDBC connection string, not native as in 8.x. In native, we were requesting for installation, we needed a database client to be installed as part of domain repository or start the Informatica domain itself. But starting 9.x, it's pure JDBC, so you need not install any of the database client to start Informatica platform itself, right? So it will use JDBC, which is bundled as part of the product. Technically, looking at it, we should be able to have a Linux server and domain sitting on SQL Server, which was not possible in old 8.x. So that's the one. And the other one is the JDBC split brain avoidance, right? So we had an issue with split brain. When we say split brain is, if you have two nodes which were gateway nodes, there are chances saying that both the gateways become a master, so which invariantly left to a hung situation. So JDBC directly addresses this one, so you will not have a split brain situation where two nodes become the master gateway. So there will be only one node at any given point being the master. So that is the domain repository enhancement. Now coming to the monitoring service itself, right? So we are using the JMX technology as a Java standard for monitoring, and all the services attributes, like whatever properties you are setting, is exposed as a managed bean, which is called the mbean in Java world. So we do expose this as a mbean, so it's much easier for any development for service itself to set this property without having issues, right? The other thing is the services can be monitored using the external tool using JConsole. Again, this JConsole is freely available from Java. So if you want to monitor a particular service, this is purely for this monitoring service is purely available only for the new services, since it is in the Java. So you can monitor the using JConsole and see what is the class doing, where the heap is, and everything, right? And future we can do SNMP support in future, which is the simple network management protocol. It can be used in future if required. So that is from the monitoring side. Then comes the services communication framework, right? So we are using Java Services Framework, which we call JSF internally, and again this is also open architecture available, so it will be able to stream the data between the client and server. Also it will be able to notify the client by the server, right? If you want to notify even to the client, so this JSF helps us to do that one without having any issues. Okay. Then the architecture of the ISP itself, right? So till now I was explaining about what are the enhancements within the ISP and what are available, what are different from the PowerCenter PCSF 8.x. So if you look at the new architecture, so this is the node architecture for ISP. If you look at the leftmost, which is the BIP or TCP protocol, Java Service Framework and ISP API, this is purely used for all the new services. All the new services will be communicating using the BIP JSF. For example, currently all the data quality services which I am aware of uses this framework for communicating with the ISP framework underlying. If you look at what are the underlying framework which ISP itself gives, is the domain configuration. It should be able, like admin console will be using the domain configuration to pick it up. Then the second one is the domain service. Again, from the admin console, the domain service component is exposed for the admin console as part of ISP. Now, what is the logging service, right? So the logging service itself is any service which needs to log the information to the part of the domain. This logging service is available. So basically the service has to say, I want to log all this information and send the information to the ISP. So ISP will be able to log the information underlying for you. Then comes the user management and privileges, user and privilege management service. This is the UUM, wherein for each services it should be able to give you what is the permission, what are the privileges, what are the roles. Then comes the licensing. Again, it is a basic framework which ISP gives. Then you have alert services, the EDR service which I discussed. Then you have the scheduling services, which is part of any scheduled job which you want to do, right? So all these are available for the BIP. Now the middle part, if you look at, is HTTP TCP port, and this is basically we have still maintained the backward compatibility for specifically for the old services, so that there need not be any code change as a for or any changes development required for it to run the jobs. So we the old services still uses the HTTP TCP port, and it will send the PCSF remote API. Then we have a internal adapter wherein it converts this PCSF request to ISP adapter request. Then the ISP framework will be able to provide the information. And the last one is the JMX, very specifically for monitoring service. Again, the JMX itself will pick up the port dynamically on the fly for it to connect and show you the monitoring information, any jobs which are running. Okay. Then coming to the ISP node manager communication, which I was discussing, right? So the JSF, it's or the service port manager, is used for internode as well as by clients such as INFACommand and admin console to communicate between each other. So this is a very specific port which we have opened starting 9.x, and this is called a service manager port, or we sometimes call internally as the ISP port, right? And you should be able to see this information in the node meta.xml. You will have a HTTP port, and there will be an additional parameter which is called the port. And this port is very specifically the service manager port or the JSF port. And this port will be used by all the new services for communicating within the node, or if you want to do an INFACommand request or any admin console, this port will be used for the communication. Now, why do we still have HTTP port, right? So the HTTP port is available for backward compatibility, as I was saying, right? So any PowerCenter request or anything, there is no changes for you, so you can directly use this HTTP port and it will still continue to use the same framework. It can send the same request, and still we will be able to handle as part of the ISP framework to cater to this both different types of services. As you know, PowerCenter itself is a C++ based product, and all these new products, particularly data quality, uses a Java framework. So we need to cater to the both C++ and the Java world. So next comes what is the Java Services Framework, right? So this Java Services Framework is a new internal communication framework. As I said, it's been used by the Infa command node or admin console for communicating. Now, this same framework is used by the new services, Informatica Data Services, or data quality, or client tools for the data quality and data services. So that's the framework we are using. And the node process usually listens to a 6006, right? So as I was explaining, you would see this one as part of node meta.xml, and it would say port next to the HTTP port. Now, communication itself uses Beep protocol, which is an open framework, okay, which is built over the Java Services Framework. So this Beep protocol is being used for us to communicate between the nodes or whatever service request. Now, we do have the enhanced support of secure channel in the domain property, which is called the TLS, meaning to say the communication all can be encrypted on the OS level. So this is called the TLS as a property. You should be able to say true or false. Now, again from JSP, this is the architecture if you are looking at when there is the communication for the new services framework. So if you look at, there is a node 1 which is the master, and there is a node 2 which is the non-master. Now from node 2, all the communication comes to the service manager port of node 1, and node 1, if I wants to send any information to node 2, it will use the JSF port. And the same way, if you look at Infa command or admin console process, it will be using the node 1 JSF ports. Now when it comes to the admin console itself, there is another change you would have seen as part of 9.x. The admin console itself comes only in the master gateway. You won't be able to access it from the multiple nodes as in 8.x. So this also is a new change. Starting 9.x, you will be able to access that only from the master gate. And this is the JSF, the ISP support for the old PowerCenter product, right? It still uses HTTP port, so there might be cases wherein the PowerCenter itself works, then you come back and say, no, my new services are not working. So the underlying issue is you might have done a firewall on the additional service manager port. In that case, you would see the behavior wherein PowerCenter services are working but not the new services. So you need to make sure the firewall is off for both. Okay. And additional changes. Additional changes is, as I was showing you, the PCSF itself is maintained for the backward compatibility. So the same API is being used underlying to run 8.x. So it should work seamlessly without any issues. Then admin console itself uses the JSF, as I was saying, all the new services using the JSF based remote APIs, right? And the Tomcat service maintains the ISP node manager. It is not moved out, so still it is part of the Tomcat, even though we run this as a new Java services. So it is part of the ISP node. Now 8.x services does not require any code changes for this to work. coming again to the high level differences on the processes itself. If you see the process level in 8.x, whenever you start Informatica, you will have only one Java process, but starting 9.x, you would see 2 Java process. If you look at Windows itself, when you start the INFASupport in 8.x, it will just say INFASupport. There will not be any additional Java. But 9.x, you would see a INFASupport, then the Java for admin console to start up. So you would see 2 processes as part of 9.x. The minimum number of ports in 9.x was only 2. One for HTTP and the shutdown port for Tomcat, because we were handling everything. Now, the additional optional port you can have was for HTTPS, but starting 9.x, we need minimum of 5 ports to start up, because we need it for HTTP, then the internal JSF or the service manager port. Usually it is HTTP port +1, so these are the defaults. Now it becomes 6006. Then the Tomcat itself has need a shutdown port, so it is a 6007. Admin console, since it became application by itself, so it needs 2 ports for startup and shutdown. Then we can add a additional HTTPS port if needed, right? So that is the difference starting 9.x. These are the minimum number of ports we need. Now, how do we identify the process itself, right? So you can do a grep on endorsed for 8.x. In 9.x, you would see 2 Java process. To differentiate is, one is will have an endorsed word, and other will say _admin console. Okay. So if you look for it, you would be able to differentiate, and the admin console parent process ID will be the Tomcat process ID, and the Tomcat process ID parent ID will be always 1. So there is other way to figure out which process is the parent process. Now, the framework itself in 8.x, it was PCSF. Starting 9.x, it is ISP, and architecturally 8.x was very rigid, so 9.x we have made it open, so it can be pluggable and much faster integration to the admin console to expose the services. Yeah. Coming to the logs, right? What are the different logs and where does it sit? So if you look at this screen, right, so if we have INFAHome, Tomcat, bin, and previously under bin we never used to have any logs, right? All the information we will look for would be under the Tomcat logs itself, right? So under the bin we have started putting a lot of logs, which is the service framework or the JSF or ISP logs, and this is nothing but the node related information. So these are very important logs for us to see whether is there any issue. And we have still maintained the standard Tomcat logs, wherein you would see Catalina node.log exceptions log to start up and shut down, right? Additionally, the temp folder in old was just used as a placeholder for the environment variables and other things. Now, starting 9.x, the temp folder itself will have the services log. Now, for example, you would see _admin console and under that logs. Now, since all these new services have become a standalone Java process, they need a port and they become an object within the Tomcat. So they would generate a Catalina.out or services.log within their name. Now, example I have given is _admin console. If you go _admin console, you would see logs wherein it will say Catalina.local manager. All these logs will be there. If there are any issues with admin console not coming up, that's the first place we are going to look, whether is there any port block or some issues with the ports itself, right? So once it is up, assuming we didn't see any issues, then if you look down, there is the services administrator. That's where the main web app application is sitting, right? Under the administrator log, we will be able to find out if there are any issues. Now, all these new services are put under INFAHome services. You would see a lot of services under that one. So basically the services itself will log all the information under this one. Now starting the ISP itself, when we said this as a unified architecture, I have just put a present slide for data quality and the data services. If you look at it, how it works, right? On the top is all the client tools: Informatica developer, designer, analyst service, or admin console. And if you look at the bottom part or the middle part, which are the services, right? All these services can be handled by any of this request, right? If you look at it from admin console, you would be able to take advantage of data integration service, or from the Informatica developer we will be able to run. And I was telling about the plugin architecture. So data integration service itself is a framework underlying which will allow us to plug in any new features inside for it to run and work. Coming to the support tools, right? So the support tools we do provide for all this new architecture is Infa9dump. It will be able to collect stack traces, heap dump on hang, crash, or core dumps. This can be used against PowerCenter as well as the new data quality world. And this is the URL for you to go forward and take a look if you have any issues. Then we have introduced a new Log Express. I would encourage everyone to go and try this one. This is very specific to collection of all the logs on a scenario base. For example, if you see a hang on integration server, the Log Express will be able to ask you intuitive question saying that what is the issue you are looking, what is happening. Then if you say, okay, I'm looking at this integration server, it looks like a hang, or you can say my workflow is hanging, then the Log Express will be able to collect all the required information, all the logs based on that, and upload it to the TSFT Informatica support site. So we will be able to take a look and give solution faster. Now if you want any help, you can raise a SR with Informatica, or you can go to mysupportinformatica.com and you would be able to see this Log Express. Thank you, and I just opened the bridge for the Q&A.
Thank you, Lax. So folks on the WebEx, you can go ahead and ask your questions, or you can also send us your questions on the chat session, and we have the next 12 minutes for questions, please. Thank you.
I have a question. Yeah, what is the question?
Okay, I have a question on chat here by one person called Rajendra Kota. Can you quickly open the admin console and show the improvements that we have added in 9.x? Lax, do we have an instance running that we could probably show?
Yes, 1 minute. Okay, I'm going to put this on pause and try to open up the admin console. Okay. Yeah, in the meantime, anyone has any questions?
There is another question from one person called Rajamani Vasudevan. He would like to know about the EDR service.
Okay. So hope you are able to see my admin console here, right? So if you look at on the domain itself, on the action, if you see all these services are available out of the box for you to configure, run it. Again, you will be able to configure it, and while running it's going to be the license service which will dictate whether you have access to this one or not. So we have completely opened all the services for you, from PowerCenter to SAP to reporting service to the data quality and Power Exchange. All these are open. So all these are available out of the box. Once you install the Informatica 9.x, you should be able to create this service, but the license is going to stop you from using it. But you are welcome to play around now. When the second question was on the EDR, now this is what the EDR service is all about. So we can create a connection object, and this connection object becomes a proper domain object, which is the global. Now you can assign permissions based on this to a particular user or a particular group, wherein you have a sensitive connection, you don't want it to be exposed. So it is more a centralized location for controlling the connection object. So this is what we call this as a EDR service.
There's one more question on the chat session from Rajendra Sahani. We have a connection in Workflow Manager. Where can we see them in Admin Console? Is there a way to migrate them?
No, still, as I was explaining, this architecture has been opened up for new services. Still PowerCenter is not there where we'll be able to open it and run it. So it's going to take some time, but the work is in progress. So you should see incremental changes as part of every release. Down the lane someday you might have all the PowerCenter as part of a single framework.
Another question from one person called Suresh. Are there any new functionalities in Informatica 9 PowerCenter which reduces development cycle?
Yes, the development cycle is, I would encourage you to use the PowerCenter, the data quality, meaning to say the developer tool. The developer tool itself is it's a single placeholder where you can develop the mapping, preview, run it, make sure everything is there. Then you will be able to push this mapping from the developer tool to PowerCenter itself. So that improves the development cycle.
Okay. There's a question from one person called Prem Sagarnala. He would like us to elaborate more on the monitoring service.
So monitoring service, which we say JMX, which has been exposed only for the new service. If you look at here, the administration would be able to look at what are the jobs running and see whether anything running or failing, which is not possible in existing 8.x. Now, if we had any jobs running here, you will be able to monitor it from here, kill it, and whatever is required can be done. Additionally, if you understand the JMX itself, we will be able to open up Java. Since all these are Java process, we should be able to add the port for DM, communicating with the service in the process level.
One question from Pradyumna Satapathy. In 8.x, we had log, node.log, and catalina.out. Where can I find the corresponding logs in 9.x?
There is no change. If you remember, look at the screen, there is no change as such in the same. If you look at here, it's going to be same location. Tomcat logs, the node, everything will be in the same location. So that has not changed. For only thing is you will see the new services log under different location.
One question from Mohan Mayappan. Should all the connection in Admin Console be restricted based on services instead of groups?
No, it will be based on the usage, right? If you want to expose this connection to be a source object or a target object connection, so it will be depending upon the usage rather than on the service itself. Now, this connection can be used for importing the source or importing the target itself.
We have a question from one person called Dennis Catton. where can we go for help on configuring the authentication domain to LDAP and Active Directory?
So if you look at a screen, if you go on the domains, on the security, on the rightmost corner, you should have something called the LDAP authentication and active service. You should be able to access as part of our documentation itself.
Does developer tool require a special license?
Yes, developer tool itself requires the data quality. The tool itself will be free as usual. The client tools are always free, but for the model repository, developer DAS, these needs licenses, so you have to purchase licenses for that.
We have a couple of people asking us if we could give a demo of Log Express and other support tools. So we will because of the time constraints, we will not be able to do it now, but we will certainly have it as one of the webinar topics in coming months.
And the other thing for the tools itself, support tools itself, starting 9.5.1, the tools are already bundled as part of the product, right? So if you go under Info Home Tools, Debug Tools, you would see all these tools available as part of the installation. So you need not go again to download it.
Apart from that, we will also be posting videos. If you have already subscribed to our YouTube channel, you should see a playlist called as Support Tools. So you can see a lot of videos that have been created by our support engineers on different support tools. So we will keep adding more videos as and when we introduce more tools. And coming to the next question we have, can we export the profile results from developer tool? Is there a default location to view these files?
Yeah, if you export, it will be part of your DAS, which you would have configured where you want to export. The export itself as part of your profiling advanced property. You should see location here. If you look at here, file result export, this is part, when it says dot, it is Tomcat bin, so under that you should be able to see it.
Can PowerCenter have a feature of using connection objects as domain objects in admin console in near future as data quality? And this question is from Naveed Rahman.
Yes, so that's what I said, right? Mostly you would see PowerCenter moving towards this, but I don't have the timeline. You would see in future.
One question from Kiran: are there any enhancements on metadata manager or mapping wizards and auto documentation?
I am not expert on metadata manager, but I do see they have made enhancement, and starting 9.5.1 we would be able to do from data quality, we would be able to launch the lineage itself. So there are enhancements, but again you might need to send a mail to support to find out what it is.
There's a couple of people asking us if this webinar will be available for future viewing. Yes, this session has been recorded, and a recording of this will be sent across to you in an email, and also will be available on our support portal as well as our YouTube channel. So I have one final question, Lax, from Rajaji. In 8.x, we were able to assign the integration service when we migrate workflow through scripts, but after migrating to 9.1, we were not able to do the same, as verified with Informatica support. There has been a CR raised on this. I don't know if that is a question or if that is a statement. All right. I think apart from that, we don't have any other questions. I think we are dot on time. It's 9 a.m. So.
And again, so one more thing I want to add is, right, if we have not addressed your questions, please feel to send this, send the questions across as part of webinar. We will try to answer as much as possible. Given the short time period, we might have missed a couple of questions, so please send the questions to the webinar. We will add as soon as possible.
Sure. So the webinar for the month of May, the topic that we are going to be Presenting would be protective sensitive data in development and test environment using persistent data masking. So the date would be the 30th of May, and again the time would be at 8 a.m. Pacific. So we have two presenters, Nitya Babu and Ganika, who will be walking us over this. You can see more updates on this on mysupport.informatica.com. And regarding the recording for this webinar, we are going to post the link on our MySupport portal. And if you have any questions, it will be a blog post, so you can go ahead and put in your questions there, and we will certainly respond back to it. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for your time, and see you in the next webinar.